Welcome to Josh's House of Nerd Podcast.
Hello, Nerd Nation. I'm Josh, and I welcome you to the podcast. Grab a cold evergreen goblet of blue milk and make yourself comfortable here at my House of Nerd. In this podcast, we are on the topic of the month, which is character studies. Movies which are given to us by Crit this month. And tonight's movie is John's pick, the 2018 coming-of-age comedy written and directed by Bo Burnham in his first directorial role, starring Elsie Fisher, Josh Hamilton, and revolves around Kayla Day, who is an 8th grader in her thing. And I actually didn't say the topic or what the movie was called, did I? It's called 8th Grade by Bo Burnham. And it stars Elsie Fisher, Josh Hamilton, and revolves around Kayla Day, who is an 8th grader in her final week at Miles Grover Middle School, a public school in small New York town. She posts motivational vlogs on YouTube about confidence and self-image that receive few to no views. Nervous and struggling to make friends at school, she is voted most quiet by her classmates. Meanwhile, her single father, Mark, struggles to connect with her and break her reliance on social media. So we're going to talk that movie. And as always, joining me here in the podcast, I have John and Crit, my good friends who are always my cohorts on this. And if you guys haven't talked or heard us in our previous podcast or tuned in, here's a little bit about our podcast, just so you can kind of find out what's going on as I bumble through my words here. What we do is every month, one of us picks a topic. And then each of us every week from that topic picks 3 movies. And then we change the titles slightly. And then we all vote on those titles that each one of us gives. Last week we chose from John's 3 offerings. And this week, Crit will give us 3 offerings for us to pick for next week's movie. And then at the end of this, it'll be my turn to present a new topic for next month. So here we go. Let's go forward. Gentlemen, let's talk about this movie, 8th Grade. And John, let me ask you this. Why did you pick this one? What is this significance to this movie for you?
So this movie is from one of my favorite comedians, which is Bo Burnham.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate his journey as a comedian and as an actor. And this is his debut work as a writer and director. And specifically his battle with anxiety and panic attacks on stage. I mean, that's why he stopped doing his stand-up comedy for a long time, was due to panic attacks and anxiety. Exactly. He only recently just came back with a Netflix special called Inside. Roughly, I think it's been about a year now. But his fight with that kind of stuff has made me really interested in his work and how he portrays things like anxiety and how he is able to, in my mind, he does a fantastic job of drilling down into how to make people feel awkward and how to make people feel anxious and how to describe those in words that we can all understand or that we can all relate to. Like if you ever watch his special Inside on Netflix, some of his songs, some of his ways he's explained disassociation and things like that, like, are just so powerful and so well done and well written and well thought out, that 8th Grade to me was just an extension of that skill and kind of it's just an extension of that skill in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, and I appreciate that he talks about this because this is something that, I mean, I have dealt with a lot in my life and still do. And when I found out that, oh my goodness, a famous comedian, of this sort, when I read that he had done that, written this because of his anxiety and problems on stage, it kind of blew me away a little bit that he was being so forthcoming about that. Because more and more you're hearing people talk about that. But, not that long ago, it felt like this kind of a topic was almost taboo in the sense of, oh, you're a crazy person if you have anxiety, if you have any kind of, issues like that, depression or any of, sorts like that, and I really keyed into this movie on this because of that. I could kind of see myself in her shoes a lot.
Well, and I think that's the power behind this movie is, the one thing that I really, really liked about his direction with his movie is he cast eighth graders. Like, he did not go out and cast, 19-year-olds or even, 16-year-olds to try to portray eighth graders. No, he cast eighth grade aged individuals in this film. And so I think that gave it a sense of realism, for one, because you're like, oh, no, these are actual eighth graders. And then
and I think they did a good job.
Oh, I think they did a fantastic job.
Yeah.
Yeah, Elsie Fisher, I think, is very talented.
Yeah, she did wonderful.
I didn't realize that she was voiced in Despicable Me until after the fact.
Oh, she was
like, oh yeah, she voices Agnes in Despicable Me.
Oh, no way!
Mm-hmm, yeah,
I didn't realize that. That's
so
cool.
I didn't realize it until after, and I was looking up stuff on the movie afterwards. So yeah, no, so it's really, really good. I don't know, like, but at the same time, to me, it's a very hard watch because
it is hard.
It's so good, because it does such a good job of like putting you in her shoes, of that cringy aspect of certain things and that anxiety ridden aspect. And I think you feel bad for her or feel embarrassed for her. That I struggle a lot watching films with secondhand embarrassment, where I get too embarrassed or too anxious for the protagonist, and it makes it a struggle to watch the film. And this is definitely no different. This is a film that I really struggle to watch, because like I can't necessarily relate with some of the things, because I grew up identifying as a male, and so I didn't deal with some of these issues with consent. But at the same time, I can definitely talk about the other things, dealing with. I was growing up in the time where Facebook was just starting to get popular.
Mm-hmm.
YouTube was just starting to get popular. We're trying to navigate these new things. And then just, the normal eighth grade awkwardness that comes around that time of age anyways. So.
You used Facebook? What was the other one that everybody did? It was MySpace. I was into MySpace, man.
Oh, same here.
Yeah.
Same here until Facebook took over.
Me too.
But Facebook wasn't taking over until I was a junior. By the time we were able to basically cheat the system and get into Facebook using a fake college or something like that. And then they opened it to everyone.
I was a freshman, I think, in college when it first started.
Yeah.
But kind of going back to what you were saying about, being able to relate with this, there was parts in this. It was hard to watch, because I struggle with, like you, because I do struggle with anxiety a lot. I struggle in being in those situations too, even just watching them. I think I brought this up on the podcast before a long time ago about that Office episode where Steve Carell is showing off his little TV, and they're having it's the dinner party one.
Yeah, the dinner party one.
It's one of the most awkward episodes, and I love it and hate it all at the same time, because of how awkward it is and how cringy it is the whole time.
But it's one of the best episodes.
It's so good. But whenever people get like into those situations on TV shows, sometimes I find myself like turning the channel, because I just can't deal with it, even in watching them go through it.
Yeah.
I put myself in it, and I could put myself in this movie, and I'm not going to deny it. There was times that it was really hard, in the sense, not that it was a bad movie. It was, I saw myself in band. I saw myself in eighth grade. This is where I really, really melded with this movie. I moved to a town called Rexburg, as you guys know, when I was, you probably didn't know what age, though, when I was 12 years old. From sixth grade until eighth grade, I had barely any friends. I actually had no hangout friends at all. I had acquaintances that I would meet with, maybe in the library, and maybe talk a little bit here or there. I mostly read books, and because I just couldn't find friends. And then through band in the eighth grade, third trimester of my 8th grade year, I found a friend, and he's my friend, John, who I am still friends with to this day, who's become a lifelong friend. But it took me until the very end of 8th grade going into high school to find a friend, because I was awkward and I was, just didn't know how to do it. Just like this girl, she just didn't know how to put herself out there and find friends and mesh, and was awkward about it. And so was I. That was me. I just couldn't find that. And then it took somebody else, kind of like almost like the high school girl in this movie, kind of took one person, he was the same age as me though. I'd never hung out with before. I met him through a mutual friend who I actually am not friends with anymore, which is kind of weird. And we became friends and became best friends and have been ever since. It's just kind of strange how that happened, and kind of found my foothold in it. It took a long time to find that foothold, but it was just that I could just feel myself, the anxiety and the awkwardness of going through that grade and seeing her trying to make friends by YouTube and in any means necessary. I remember myself going to places or going to being invited to people's houses and being that person in the pool that didn't have any friends in the corner. I hate it. At the same time, loved it and could relate to it at the same time in this movie. Anyways, those are some of the biggest things I pulled out of this movie. It was hard because it's so much me in so many ways, except for the girl part, but but it's so funny how that transfers across. It doesn't matter what, gender you are, how you identify. It shows us that in many ways we're all the same when it comes to, friends and just growing up, and it's all relatable. So those are some of the biggest things I found with this movie. And it was just all the time. It was all the time going, oh crap, I know how she feels there and how she feels there. Now, and I go back to what you said. I can't relate to the part of being pushed, trying to get someone to, have sex with me. I could barely get girls to talk to me, let alone.
Right.
But at the same awkward situation of, no, I don't, leave me alone,
At the same time, I think Burnham does a fantastic job of making that relatable, even if you're not, even if you haven't gone through that yourself. Like, I think by that point, he's hopefully got you far enough in as relating to the main character,
absolutely,
that you can see that happening.
The sheer horror of it happening. I mean, you could just feel just how horrible of a situation that was for her.
Yeah,
it just emanated from that scene.
Crit, you've been awfully quiet.
I want to give you a chance to talk about this.
Oh, that's good. I appreciate it, because like I said, I was really happy you guys chose this movie, and I think, even if you didn't like it, it wouldn't have mattered to me, because to me, like, this is one of those films that I think define Bo Burnham's career and just like really set him up, and it did fantastic. Like it had a budget of $2 million, independently financed, and made over $14 million.
Yeah,
so
fantastic.
Like, yeah, it did really well. So
hey John,
yeah,
would you ever be disappointed if we didn't like a movie you had picked? I mean, would you ever really be mad?
The Hunt for Red October one hurt. It hurt.
Because in all honesty, I'm like, most of the time you're so like, I don't care if you like this or not. This is the movie I picked. This is the one I wanted. You're just so adamant about it.
The Hunt for Red October hurt me. That wounded me. All your criticisms of it.
We love it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Criticisms,
but no. So this is one, like, I'm fine. Like, I can find criticisms with some of the filming and stuff like that. But overall, I think the story is just the. I really believe Bo Burnham is an extremely skilled individual, and I think it comes through in this film and all of his other work. Like, he's extremely skilled at what he does.
I'm not going to deny that he's not. You can't see some first time director kind of things going on there, in some of maybe the way that it was. I don't know. We can talk about that a little bit more in here in a minute.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Some of the things that, like, I kind of noticed a little bit, or, in maybe the soundtrack, or, maybe sometimes the way that it was cut. But overall, I think I think it was really well put together, especially for him, this being his kind of directorial debut.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely. But I mean that happens with all directors. There's always little things that you can probably nitpick on a first movie, and and when they put out another one, you could just see how they grow and mature based off maybe the things that didn't go so right the first
Mhm.
time, and build off of the things that did go right.
And I mean, and he did well in the awards area too. He won Writers Guild and Directors Guild awards. Fisher was nominated for a Golden Globe,
Which is fantastic.
yeah, and then so he did very well with his directorial debut, and I hope there is more from him.
Me
I
too.
hope Inside is not the last thing that he does in this realm, because, like I said, he's extremely skilled. And Inside is, if you liked Eighth Grade, and even if you didn't like the awkwardness of it, I think you'll very much enjoy Inside. He wrote and directed and edited it himself, so like he did everything on the film, and it's just great. Like, again, very talented individual, and that comes out here.
Yeah, agreed. And you can definitely see that in the way that it's put together, the way that it's talked about, the way that it's the dialogues meshed together, the way that he kind of let the girl. I mean, she pulled off awkward really well, and you can know she's not really that way, but she pulled it off really well. In her speech, her mannerisms, and who knows how much he scripted, how much she put that in. It doesn't matter. He built the framework, which was really good, to make it so that she could, put on that good performance, which is, masterful in of itself. So, there is so much good about this movie. There really is. There's a lot of good things, and to be able to portray that age so well, like he did, even writing it as an adult, pulling from his own life, that's hard, even though you might experience it every single day, to put that onto paper.
Because I want to say he was about 27 or 28 when he wrote this, when he did this.
It's hard to express yourself. I sometimes have a hard time expressing myself of the way I feel and the way that I maneuver life, in the way that my anxiety pulls me here and there,
Mm-hmm.
And I think he did well. I think he expressed it very well in that sense and stuff. Crit, was there anything that you related to on this movie?
Well,
anything any highlights you felt on this?
I was going to say that it's a cute movie with many uncomfortable scenes, mostly because of the age of the actors. Right. I can appreciate the authenticity of using real eighth graders and stuff like that, but it's just, you're still putting them in an artificial, I mean, it's a movie set. It's an artificial thing. And I don't know. I'm not necessarily here for that. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I could see what they were going for, and they definitely pulled it off. Yeah.
I actually said at first, right to my wife, what the hell has John got me into here? I seriously did. And then the more and more I got into it, I saw where it was going, and I'm like, okay, I'm fine with this now. I just didn't know, because you're right. What you said, Crit, it was kind of like, well, this is not necessarily an age group movie that I would typically watch.
It's interesting because it's like it's a movie for adults with kids. Mm-hmm. In order to remind adults of what it was like to be a kid. Okay, fair. They pulled that off really well. Mm-hmm. But it's like, it's an interesting problem to try to find like the entertainment value, mm-hmm. other than just, oh yeah, I kind of remember what that felt like, which is, I mean, the point of art is to make you feel something. So mm-hmm. in that sense, it's absolutely, but it's definitely not a movie I would necessarily come back to and watch a lot.
and I don't agree with this movie being cast as a comedy, to be honest, because I don't feel like it's in the same realm as comedy movies. I don't think this is designed to be a standard comedy film. Mm-hmm. Like you just said, Crit, I think it was designed to make people feel something, and what it made them feel was like reminding them of what it was like to be that age, or to go through some of these same things, and so they can relate to kids. I hope that I can maintain this same kind of relation by the time my kid gets this old.
Well, one of the things that I did want to talk about, though, that wasn't necessarily about the primary theme, was the secondary theme that they did spend a little bit of time on. And that was kind of the society that's made by adults for adults that kids have to navigate, right? It's like
Mm-hmm.
Instagram, Twitter, YouTube were not built for kids in mind. Like they just weren't
No.
built for it. Facebook was definitely not built for kids in mind. And before that,
Snapchat.
Yeah, Snapchat. Before that, MySpace kind of was in a way, sort of. So that was a little bit different, I think, than the other social media systems. But like watching kids try to navigate that, it's like, okay, this is the situation that we've built, maybe inadvertently as a society, but that's what we've done is we've placed kids in these environments and just said, well, I hope you figure it out because we haven't figured it out yet either. And that seems like an interesting commentary. I mean, it wasn't really commentary. It was just kind of noticing it as a thing, which makes sense coming from Bo Burnham's background, is that there isn't much judgment that it's a good or bad thing necessarily. It's just a thing that exists. It's like living in a society with cars. It's just you can't easily engage with that without bringing up a lot of stuff, and that's not what the movie was about. But I did think that was interesting. It had me thinking about, how kids need to navigate a new version of society than what their parents grew up in.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and then he was
that.
getting into this at roughly age 17 and getting into YouTube and stuff. And so I think your point of like not painting it as either a good or a bad thing, but as a thing that has to be navigated is extremely accurate.
It's a tool.
Well, just navigated without any guidance. That's the problem. That's the thing that's interesting. It's like when she's sitting with the high school kids and they're talking about like, oh, so you just had Instagram from, when you were in 5th grade, right? It's like, oh, you've seen stuff, essentially is what they're saying. And she's like, no, not really, but kind of, it's like, it's like I said, these systems were not built for kids in mind at all. And it's not something you can really keep kids off of easily, I would think. So it's,
well, even in that same comment, he's like, so you've seen like, what are they talking about? Dick pics, from Snapchat. And she's no, what, type thing. and he just assumed it, and she's just like, I don't really, go there. Or I don't, know really kind of where you're coming from on that. Cause she hadn't experienced that. Given
her previous searching in the movie, she probably has. Because it's not like in those types of systems, everything that you see is what you ask to see.
You're going to see things you don't.
Yeah, you're going to see things you don't want to.
That's a good point.
I mean, just like back in the day, back in my high school days, the beheading videos that were going around and stuff like that. Like there's you like Crit was saying, like you've seen some stuff.
Well,
you've
had
I
that. Work at a school now, and and I have to really lock down on filtering to the kids, and it's kind of one of those things like no matter how hard sometimes I lock that filtering down, things slip through, and there always will.
Well, I mean, they aren't at school all the time.
No,
they're not at school all the time. That's the whole thing. Is that as soon as they're plugged into the internet, which is kind of, I mean, can you imagine showing up in high school and not knowing what the internet is and how to use it? Like it would be social suicide, it seems like. But like the very fact that you would be plugged into the internet means you've seen some stuff and you've had to figure out how to deal with what you've seen,
That's a good point.
Well, and then just what it does, how it changes personality. Like my little boy is like recording video logs right now. Like he's doing them funnily, like it's a fun thing for him to do, and it's like, oh, I'm like some of the kids I see on TV and kids I see around, and so he's recording these little things on the iPad, and I'm just sitting here like, oh man, I can't tell him not to do it, and I'm not going to tell him not to do it, but at the same time, it's like, man, I hope I hope I can help him understand like the line with these things and how people really are, and like it's just. Like
I've had to talk to my son about the same thing about wanting to be on. Like he has a little YouTube channel with his friends, and we've had to have talks about what's appropriate, what's not, type stuff, and I didn't let him be on YouTube for a really, really, really long time.
Well, and yeah, like Ian does not, or my son's name is Ian. He does not get to be on YouTube without parent supervision because YouTube is just so bad.
Right.
Like, there's so much garbage on there that is, like
here.
Crit said, it is not meant for kids. They have YouTube for kids. It is not kid friendly. Like, it is not friendly to kids. And so it's just like, so I liked that secondary push there. The background music that came on in the very beginning when she goes up to her room and the only light coming in is the light from her laptop, highlighting her face as the music kind of flares in the background as she's going through these posts. I'm like, oh man, like that was definitely me at some point. Like, I was definitely in the same realm. And that reliance on social media and looking at what everyone else is doing, like so yeah, I think it was a good secondary commentary that filled in the embarrassing awkwardness of 8th grade, but filled in what's going on. And then I think there's another small one in there with regards to like consent, and how consent, like how she basically says, oh yeah, I give oral sex, and like, oh yeah, of course I do that. And so she's semi giving consent, even though she doesn't know what she's talking about and doesn't know what's going on. She's only doing it because she's pressured by society and pressured by that situation. And it's not until she looks up later and she's like, oh, this is horrible. Like, this is why would I agree to do this? But the whole idea of that consent being shaped by society was really interesting
because she wanted that boy's attention. Yeah, like she thought that was the only way to get that boy's attention, which is yeah. I mean, boys are yucky sometimes. Yeah, definitely. Which sucks that she felt like she had to. That was the only way she could get that guy's attention. That I actually thought. That hit me more than anything, to be honest with you. That she felt like, that was the only way to get that boy's attention. Because that whole scene was so hard to watch.
Yeah, it was so hard to watch, and especially since they're 8th graders talking about this. Like,
and then just he's sitting there playing video games and not even giving her time of day, and then she says dirty pics, and immediately, it was, oh really, you have it? I was like, gosh dang it, jerk. That's all you give a crap about.
But good freaking heavens, is that not accurate with some kids?
Oh, that's what sucks, is it is accurate.
Well, he's not going to be any more mature than she is in this situation.
Absolutely not. Yeah. No, so it's not an issue of like laying blame. It's just like this is the level of maturity that's present across this age group.
Right.
Guys, I there's probably absolutely times that it's like I was because of that age group that things like that happened to me, or I saw it happening to people, and it sucks. And I guess that's another aspect of that show that's like that comes out, that of trying to get people's attention in any way possible. Because I remember people in high school, doing anything and everything. In fact, I see it happening in my adult life. I see it happening at the school I work at. Every day, people they're just doing anything to get people to notice them, whether it's something they really, really want to do or not. And that's, I don't know if that's talks to society or if that's just age groups or just people in general.
I think a chicken nugget dinner with a Raid sauces was pretty good. I appreciate that.
that was a fun scene. Awkward but fun.
Yeah,
it's stuff like that. That whole Rick and Morty interchange with the Szechuan sauce.
I appreciate at the end where she kind of becomes friends with the nerdy kid and like actually enjoys herself there. So I like to me this film had a happy ending. In my opinion, like there was some maturing done, there was some movement forward. It wasn't just stuck in that awkward thing. Like there was
the relationship with her dad improved, which I thought was really good, because he was trying so hard, and he was awkward in his own way, just trying to make a connection with her. And that's being a dad, of 3 teenagers, three teenage girls, it's like really, really hard sometimes to make that connection. I'm not as awkward as that guy. I have a little bit more of a connection than with them, a lot more of a connection with them than he did. But still, I feel that guy's pain of, I want to talk to you so bad. I want to be there for you so bad. And yet it just, it's trying to get there and letting the kids let you get there and let you in is really hard. And I think that really came out real hard. His journey of her maturing, them maybe, them both kind of like wanting to, be in each other's lives, but not exactly that, because of the age group and growing up and stuff like that. They've become like, there's this like rift of like, I don't know how to get there anymore. I mean, I go through it with my own dad. He still struggles on how to get there. And I'm 45. I mean, so I've always tried to hopefully hope that rift doesn't, happen within my own kids, but it does. Just not, it doesn't always have to be as extreme as what's in this show, is I guess what I'm trying to get to. And eventually, if you work at it like this dad did, he was always trying to help her. He was always trying to be there for her, even though she didn't want it. Eventually he got there, and she figured out that, he was just that, how amazing he thought she was. And she's just realizing that again, that he doesn't feel sorry for her. He thinks she's amazing, and she should think she's amazing too, and stuff, which I thought that was a really good, I thought that was a really cool. I really like that. See, that's the thing about this movie. There was a lot of like, sometimes it was a lot of struggles of getting through places, but there was a lot of like really cool moments like that throughout this whole show that I really liked, that kind of really stood out. You know what I'm saying? That I really appreciate in this movie a lot, from Bo Burnham, and him bringing those out, because sometimes those scenes are tough to film. Sometimes they're hard to kind of get across what your meaning is or where you're going with that. So,
but yeah, like I said, if you could feel something on this film, and like you enjoyed it, like definitely watch Inside, which is his latest work.
I'll have to watch it.
So
I'll have to watch it.
That's kind of all I've got, honestly.
Crit, did you have anything else to add before we move on? Okay. Sounds good and stuff. I think we had a good conversation and stuff like that. It's one of those interesting movies, there's so many facets and aspects too. So, all right, let's go to ratings then. I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. I really did enjoy it. Awkwardness and all. Again, kind of what Crit, and you were saying is, I don't know if I would watch it again, but I'm glad I did. And I'd really like the themes. I think Bo Burnham did a really good job in this movie. And again, I'm right with you, John. I hope to see more from him, and hope he develops this, because there's so much promise here, man. So much promise, and stuff like that. I don't know if I would go as far as wanting to own this movie again, because I don't want to rewatch it, but I do give it a 7 because I did enjoy it.
Okay. I would not watch this with my mom because it was awkward enough to watch solo. So I don't necessarily need to compound the awkward and embarrassment by including my mother.
Do you think she would enjoy it though? Like, even
I think
you didn't watch it with her, she would watch it solely.
I think she'd enjoy it.
I do too. I think my mom would enjoy this one too. Crit, what'd you think, man?
Yeah, I'd give it a 7 out of 10 also. I think they set out to do what they wanted. I'm not in the movie industry, so I can't really easily see the flaws in the movie making process. So I think everybody did a great job of conveying what they wanted to. I wouldn't necessarily watch it again just because it kind of, once you see it, I'm not picking up anything where I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I can get a different take if I watch it again. But yeah.
And speaking of those flaws, we didn't get into, or I think only the flaws I really saw was, I thought some of the music was a little clunky in spots, is all I really thought. Kind of, I don't know. I didn't feel like it was blended as well or interchanged as well sometimes. That was my only like really big flaw with it. It kind of felt a little like the blending of the music or something there felt a little amateurish in a way.
Maybe not
I actually,
amateurish, but I could
what's the
definitely
word?
tell. I could definitely tell that it was like instead of. So I noticed the music, but it wasn't a
Yes,
positive noticing. It wasn't like, oh, good. This is this really makes me feel. It's like, oh, that's an interesting tone. I wonder why they chose that. And I'm betting that's,
that's
again,
exactly what
yeah,
I'm talking about. Exactly, you said it better than I did,
yeah.
and stuff like that.
It's just
So
choices. I don't know what he would have put in place of that. I kind of like the fact they didn't just grab some random songs and throw in there every once in a while. Like seemed like it was very. Here's a thing that Bo Burnham himself might have actually composed or something like that, and that
sure.
kind of made sense. But at the same time, I was like, oh, that's an interesting. I'm not sure. Like usually, you want the music to tell you how to feel,
Yeah.
or at least help you. Like that's what movies have trained us to do, is to have music heighten the feeling that the people want. And I think that's an interesting testament that the movie does the feeling so well that the music almost isn't necessary, but when it does show up, you're like, oh, that's interesting. I wonder why they chose that sound instead of, oh yeah, this is really increasing the level of whatever I'm supposed to feel in this moment.
Yeah, you said it way more elegantly, and I appreciate you saying that, because I feel the same exact way.
Well, I wouldn't have said anything, but you reminded me of it when you were talking about it. I was like, yeah, that's right. The music was a little weird.
It was. It really stood out to me, and because I usually am like right with you, just kind of going with the flow of it and be like letting it enhance the mood, and I didn't feel like it was, and that was the only big nitpicky thing I could really come out of this movie with, which is good, That was the only big nitpicky thing. So, all right. Let's go to next week's picks. So that's given to you, Crit. You have those. And then we can talk about what the topic for the next month's going to be.
All right.
And stuff by me.
Okay. Here is movie number 1 for
All
character
right,
studies.
Let's do it.
Okay. First one. All right. First one. The Joker deals with PTSD. Number 2. Smog rides a horse. Number 3. Batman with an eating disorder.
John,
like
which
Smog.
one's
Smog rides a horse.
I'm trying to picture what I'm guessing. That sounds interesting. We can do that one. I find that. The only other one that was kind of interesting was the Joker and PTSD. That one sounded a little interesting too.
Well, considering that the Joker is almost always related to PTSD in some way.
Right. That's why I thought that felt interesting.
And because I think I know what the Smog rides a horse is.
Maybe, probably.
Yeah. When we get to it, I can guess if you want me to.
That's fine. Okay, so
we'll go with Smog rides a horse.
Yes. Okay, we're going with Smog rides a horse. All right, first one. The Joker deals with PTSD is You Were Never Really Here, which is a Joaquin Phoenix movie.
I was guessing it was Joaquin Phoenix, but I couldn't picture which one it was. I've never heard of that one.
Number 3 is Batman with an eating disorder. That's The Machinist.
That would have been so good.
Yeah, that is a good one.
Yep. And
Machinist.
Smog rides a horse. Would you like to guess?
Yes. Okay. Is it The Power of the Dog?
It is The Power of the Dog.
Yeah.
I don't even know what that is.
It's a Benedict Cumberbatch, Denzel Washington.
Really? Okay.
Is it Plemons? Jesse Plemons?
Jesse Plemons is in it?
Jesse Plemons, yep.
Oh. Wow, you picked one that I haven't well, 2 of those I hadn't seen.
I have not seen The Power of the Dog either. I just know about it because I was going through it was on my list.
I didn't even see it on the list when I was looking. That's okay. Good. That's a good one out of the middle of nowhere. I'm excited. I'm always excited when we get movies that
the
I
cast
haven't
just looks
seen before.
So good.
Yeah.
The cast just looks fantastic.
Yeah. I love all those people. Wow. Okay. Power of the Dog. It is, Crit. All right. We'll do that one. And okay. Now for the next thing on our list, I'm guessing I'm going to change it here. is the topic for the next month, which is Coming to Me. And this, I've been waiting to do this one for a little while. I last time it was my pick, I accidentally was like, oh, it's me? Whoops. I totally forgot. I was like doing it on the spot. This one I actually had written out a list, and this is what the first ones that came to my mind. And the topic that I'm going to throw out to you guys for next month, because I thought this is interesting, is movies that have sequels that you liked better than the original movie.
Okay.
That's my topic. How do you guys feel about that one?
That's fine. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. Yep. So that's what my topic is going to be.
We can only pick from movies that we've actually seen. So that's interesting. But that's okay.
It does. But I figured
you could always watch the movie before you suggest it too.
True.
Yeah, we have 2 weeks.
That's commitment.
Yep.
True.
Are you not committed to this podcast, Crit?
But the interesting is, you guys have seen so many movies that I figured you're going to be okay with this one.
Yeah, we're okay with it.
Yeah.
All right, guys. That's what I was having fun. And this character studies is one has been very cool too. I'm glad you picked it and stuff. So, and I'm glad everybody out there who's listening, all of you who listen, all of our 116 our subscribers, thank you for listening. We appreciate you, and we enjoy really doing this podcast for you. And to everybody out there listening, thank you for supporting our channel. And click the like button if you like what you heard, and subscribe. And as always, may you be excellent to each other and live long and prosper from all of us here at Josh's House of Nerd. Have a good night.
Thanks for watching. For more nerdy